The Final Whistle, A Riddle That Changed. The Game, Part 1. The Build-Up, Chapter 1. The World Descends on London. The air over London hummed with electric anticipation, the kind of charge that made the city feel alive, as though it were breathing alongside its millions of inhabitants. The World Cup final had transformed the streets into a kaleidoscope of color and sound. Flags fluttered in the warm summer breeze, blue and black for Germany, vibrant orange and green for the Elephants' country, while chants from rival fans clashed and merged like dueling symphonies. Theo Harper tightened his grip on the controls of his Jubilee Line train as it screeched to a halt at Bond Street Station. The doors slid open, releasing a flood of tourists and football fans onto the already teeming platform. Theo's eyes darted to the clock above the exit. It was only 3:15 p.m., still hours before kickoff at Wembley Stadium, but the underground was already bursting at the seams. "Stand clear of the doors, please," Theo's voice, practiced and calm, crackled over the intercom. He watched the crowd reluctantly shift as a pair of teenagers, their faces painted in the German flag's colors, squeezed into the train at the last second. Theo exhaled, his eyes catching a glimpse of a small folded note wedged between the metal frame of the doors. He frowned, but didn't have time to investigate as the train lurched forward. Above ground, the scene was no less chaotic. Amara Kone wove her way through Trafalgar Square, her press badge dangling conspicuously from her neck. She had arrived in London 2 days ago, sent by Le Soleil de l'Afrique, to cover what was shaping up to be one of the most contentious World Cup finals in history. For Amara, however, the match was personal. The Elephants' country team had not only defied the odds, but also carried the hopes of an entire continent on their shoulders. Her chest swelled with pride as she glanced at the parade making its way through the square. Towering elephants, their tusks painted with intricate gold and black patterns, moved in slow, majestic strides. Each carried a performer draped in vibrant silk, holding banners that swayed in rhythm with the crowd's cheers. The animals' handlers walked alongside, their expressions a mixture of pride and unease, as though they could sense the undercurrent of tension beneath the day's festivities. Amara paused to take a photo, her camera capturing the sunlight bouncing off the ornate patterns on the lead elephant's tusks. That's when she felt a tug on her sleeve. She turned to see a young boy, no older than 8, holding out a piece of paper. His wide eyes, framed by smudges of dust, seemed to bore into her. "For you," the boy whispered, before darting into the crowd. Amara unfolded the note, her journalist instincts immediately on high alert. Scrawled in jagged handwriting were the words, "What walks on gold but fears the sun?" Before she could process the message, the roar of the crowd surged, drowning out her thoughts. The parade was moving again, the elephants lumbering toward the Thames. Deep beneath the city, Theo's train slowed as it approached Westminster Station. The usual rhythm of his routine felt off today. His eyes kept flicking to the note stuck in the doorframe, its edges flapping with each jolt of the train. Something about it gnawed at him. During the next lull, he reached over and snatched the paper just before the doors opened. The message was short, almost cryptic. "Beneath the roar, find what's lost." Theo's chest tightened. It wasn't the note itself that disturbed him, but the sense of familiarity it evoked, like a half-forgotten memory tugging at the edges of his mind. Shaking his head, he stuffed the paper into his pocket. He had no time for riddles. Not today. At Wembley Stadium, Eric Muller adjusted his armband as he stepped onto the pitch for a pre-game warm-up. The German star's every move was met with deafening cheers from his fans, who filled the stands in a sea of blue and black. Eric was used to pressure. He thrived on it. But today, his focus was fractured. His phone buzzed in his duffel bag, a text from his younger brother, Max. Eric ignored it. Max had been obsessed with a bizarre riddle game circulating online, claiming it had ties to the World Cup. Eric didn't have time for Max's conspiracies. All that mattered was bringing the trophy home to Germany. Still, as Eric stretched on the field, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The energy in the stadium, though electric, carried a strange weight. It was as if the city itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Back in Trafalgar Square, Lila Cross balanced on her stilts, performing a playful dance for the crowd. She had been hired as part of the Elephant Parade, her job to entertain and guide the procession through the city. Her elaborate costume sparkled under the afternoon sun, but beneath the facade, she was uneasy. During a break, she leaned against one of the floats and noticed something unusual on the ornate blanket draped over the lead elephant. Woven into the fabric, almost imperceptible, was a series of strange symbols. Her curiosity piqued. Lila traced her fingers over the patterns. They weren't decorative, they were deliberate. Before she could examine them further, a handler barked at her to move. The parade was behind schedule. As Lila resumed her routine, the symbols lingered in her mind, their meaning a puzzle she couldn't ignore. As the city surged toward the kickoff, 6 lives were quietly set on a collision course. The riddles, seemingly scattered at random, began to take hold, drawing each character deeper into a web of mystery. The first whispers of Victor Trent's name were still hours away, but his game had already begun. The world didn't know it yet, but by the time the final whistle blew, nothing would ever be the same.